The role of the U.S. in foreign and domestic affairs is to protect the inalienable rights of all humanity, no matter where they are.
In this documentary, the Great Depression will be discussed in depth with this theme in mind. Let us begin. There were a couple major causes of the Great Depression. Most prominent of these was unequal distribution of wealth, the decrease in demand for goods, the overproduction,
And the tariffs countries put on incoming goods.
the straw that broke the camel's back, however, was the stock market crash of 1929 in America.
The U.S. populace was so psychologically affected by this event that they soon became panicked, which just made things worse. With the U.S. economy gone, the rest of the world fell financially with them. And so the global Great Depression began. The Great Depression affected us greatly economically, socially, and psychologically. Economically, due to the Depression, most businesses were in a tight spot. There were no jobs to be found, trade went down to an all-time low, and living standards were lowered as well. Socially, almost everyone had very little money and was out of a job as a result of the Depression, making poverty a big issue to contend with. Also, the living standards were poor considering the amount of money people had, meaning many a community was formed in poor hovel districts. Psychologically, people no longer had trust in the banks due to the Depression, and were panicked, scared, anxious, and depressed about the conditions they were living through in respect to the future. Different countries responded to the crisis in different ways, however. America's response to the global depression was to raise tariffs in hopes of rebuilding banks. We also removed loan investments from Europe and tried to restore confidence in the system through economic programs while trying to help the people via social programs. England's response was to increase tariffs as well, to increase taxes, and to regulate currency in hopes of stopping inflation. France's response was to increase worker benefits, but unemployment still stayed high and the economy still stayed low. Germany's response was to simply print more money, which led to inflation. Their economy failed the worst because of this. Japan's response was to become socialist, in which they built recovery programs to create equal distribution of wealth and also to expand, thereby gaining more wealth. The U.S.'s plan to deal with the Great Depression was FDR's New Deal, which created economic and social programs to combat the Depression and help the people. Some of these programs did such things as regulate the banks and the stock market, offer public work projects, create relief programs, create administrations, authorities, and commissions like the Works Progress Administration, and invest in businesses and industries. In all accounts, these programs were met with success, but they did not end the Depression. They just lightened its burden on the people. During FDR's presidency, he mainly focused on creating programs set on improving life for the average American. Programs included the WPA and the AAA, both of which improved the job industry. Another thing that was significant in FDR's political career was that he was reported to have constant conflict with the federal legislative branch, who he thought was limiting his power. That's why, during the course of his presidency, he expanded the powers of the executive branch so as to outdo that of the other branches. In addition, as president, he did not take a laissez-faire style to economics as his predecessors had done, but instead molded it and shaped it as he wanted so as to help improve the economy. During the Great Depression, the U.S. government was trying to protect its citizens' rights. These rights included that of happiness, comfort, and health. For example, FDR's New Deal's purpose was to preserve these rights at home. During the course of the Depression, the government continued to try and support these rights through its dealings with both